There's a lot of these SL500s out there for sale, and some of them are only 4, 5, 6 grand. But you could be stepping on a landmine. Let's get started. This is a 1999 Mercedes SL500. I believe the customer inherited it, so it's going to possibly be worth fixing. But kind of the moral of the story on this video today is that you spent 5, 6, 8 grand on one. You could easily spend that much, double again, getting it sorted out. And we'll show you why. Let's go ahead and take a look around this thing. Here's the front of this SL500, and they have a very nice look, especially in the 90s. They were the it cars. They were very cool. This one's got a little bit of fading on the hood, but nothing that couldn't buff out. You can see a bunch of bugs on it because it was driven up here. These wheels are really nice on it. They look to be in good shape. As you can see, it's in black, and it's a little dirty because, like I said, it was transported up here. As we come around to the side, you can see customer added a little AMG badge there. This is the model pre-AMG merger, so there's not such thing as an AMG model in these years. And that side is also nice. No rust, no cave-in, nothing beat up. So let's go ahead and talk about what the customer first experienced when they drove it up here. So customer actually called just to get the convertible top issues sorted. These are getting to the age where they're starting to have some major issues. We'll show you here in a minute. But they had to drive it with the top down. It wasn't working. And they knew they had to get a kind of a couple-day window where they could get it up here, and also the weather cooperating. And as they were driving it up here, the instrument cluster, the gauges, everything that you see there, all of them just went completely dead. That wasn't even on the list. They don't even know what happened, so that showed up kind of like, hey, while you're there, let's figure this out. And also, they wanted the battery checked and an oil change. But today we're going to show you what we found with the cluster, and it was something very simple. And also, what's entailed, and why are these convertible tops so troublesome? Let's go ahead and get the hood open. So here we have a nice SL500 5-liter V8. I think it's an M113, and they are very bulletproof engines. They're very good. They don't have a ton of trouble. But what we found wrong with the cluster is actually in this engine bay. As you can see over there, there's a power distribution box. It actually has a little diagnostic plug to it. Right here, this unscrews. You can actually connect a diagnostic computer to it. But on the other side of the engine bay is the actual fuse box. One thing you should always check when you have things fail, whether it be a light bulb or a radio or anything just quit working, you should check fuses. So we went through, actually had Grimes check this out. This fuse right here, which is the third brake light, was blown. We checked all of them. They were all good, but only that one was blown. Let me show you. So we removed the fuse and took a look at it, and as you can see here, you can see the little rainbow in the center, which should be a little arch shape, is cut in half because it's blown. So why did that fuse blow? There's usually a reason. As we saw with the Land Rover Discovery 2 that was in here recently, whenever you have a fuse blow, you should not go putting bigger fuse and a bigger fuse and then a breaker relay, and then, because what happens eventually is it can cause basically a nuclear meltdown of your wiring harnesses. So the fuse told us where to go. So we looked on the chart and the fuses, and it showed the fuse here that was blown was the third brake light, also known as the center high mount stop light on some vehicles. This guy right here. So we knew where to go. Let's go ahead and take a look why. We have some of the interior apart to show you some of the hydraulic cylinder issues that go on with these, but I wanted to show you what we found with the third brake light. These wires are, some of them you can see there's bare wires showing, and they're just dangling around touching this metal. It shorted out and blew the fuse, but also took out the third brake light. We put power to it, it won't even work anymore. It shorted so bad. So, what does that have to do with the instrument cluster? Everything. We removed the wires from anything that could short out. And then we put a new fuse in, and watch what happens to the gauges now when I turn on the key. Voila, our fuel gauge came alive. That's working. And if I start the engine, all the gauges come alive, tachometer, everything's good to go now. So it's easy to get confused in this situation where the gauges have died. Would you ever think to look at the third brake light? You would think there is a fuse that says instrument cluster. But for whatever reason with this particular model of car, power to the cluster is run through the fuse for the third brake light. And when it blows, you lose all your gauges. So I'm bringing this up to you guys because you could have a shop out there you're going to, you bring them this situation where the gauges are dead, and 2 days later you get a phone call, oh yeah, bro, you're gonna need a whole new cluster, it's fried, it's gonna be $1,500. It may be worth your checking just to check the fuses. It doesn't take an automotive certified technician to check the fuses. You might get to the culprit and figure it out pretty quickly, or maybe get a second opinion, because a third brake light, fix the wiring, and a new fuse solve this problem. It is not going to be $1,500. I see this situation so much where an unscrupulous shop owner says, I know it's just a fuse, but man, we can really make some money here, and they'll never know the difference. You need to be very careful about that. If this situation happens to you, hopefully you looked at the fuel gauge and knew how much fuel you have left. This customer had to continue driving and hopefully make it all the way here without running out of gas. Luckily, they had plenty of gas. But another thing too is your speedometer is not going to work. And luckily, you can use your phone. You can download a GPS-based app, speedometer, and you can put that on your phone and see at least how fast you're going until you can get it fixed. So there's some things to definitely think about, but having your gauges die is very unfortunate. It can really throw you for a loop. So definitely wanted to show you what's going on with that and how it can be taken out of context and you can really get screwed over in that situation. Now we're going to show you something that is very expensive, no matter which way you cut it. So these have a convertible top system that is completely hydraulically ran. I actually had a customer in here not too long ago who had one of these, and they said, man, there's probably like 4 or 5 cylinders in this thing all over. I mean, it's probably complicated. No, there's not 4 or 5. There's 11. And they all have to be removed and sent off for a rebuild. So I'm going to show you guys today, where are all 11 of these cylinders, and why does it cost almost $4,000 or $5,000 to fix this system? Let's start up here at the actual windshield header right here. You wouldn't think so, but inside of this windshield header are high pressure hydraulics. Yes. And when they fail, it's always when you have your nice Gucci suit on and it sprays fluid all over you. It really pisses people off. I've actually taken calls from people with these. Man, this thing just sprayed me and I almost punched a hole in the windshield. I'm so pissed off right now. So it definitely behooves you to take care of this situation before that happens. If you don't know that this has been done, all the cylinder rebuilds, you probably should get it done. And I'll take this off and show you what's underneath. There's a little magnetic sensor. Don't break it when you pull it off. This tells the system when the top is closed. We'll set it aside. Look at that, guys. There's a little hydraulic distribution block here. Here's a hydraulic cylinder that operates a latch. And also on the driver's side, there's a hydraulic cylinder that operates a latch. You can see these steel tubes, these little pipes. They usually don't leak so much there. It's usually right there on the shaft that actuates inside and out of that cylinder. And once that starts leaking really bad, it will literally rain fluid right down here onto your trousers, your shorts, your pants, whatever you're wearing. 1, 2. There's 2 just right here. Inside the trunk, there's 4 more. See these black high pressure lines? There's 1 cylinder right here and a second one right beside it. There's a long tube cylinder right here that actually opens the hatch, and this other one is just a latch type of a thing. There's 2 right there. The other 2, you can see the lines right here. There's the long tube shaped cylinder, and up here inside that latch assembly is number 6. So we found 6. We're basically only halfway done. Also, when these leak back here, on the ground you will actually start to see fluid on the ground. So we're at number 6. We have 5 more still to go. And also, while we're going and looking at all these, you can also see that taking these apart is not going to be a 10-minute job. There's a lot of panels and tear down and things to get these all out. I'm going to go ahead and manually raise the convertible top, then we can take a peek down inside of there. This hatch I just opened, those are the 2 long tube cylinders I just showed you in the trunk. What those do is open this and close it. So let's go ahead and get this thing opened up for you guys. So on the driver's side over here, there's a really large cylinder that actually operates the weight of this whole top, and also a second cylinder. Let me show you where they're at. Here's the really large one. As you can see, it goes way deep down in a hole, and you have to tear the entire interior apart to get to the bottom of that cylinder. It's way down there. Then there's a second one. I'm actually pushing the switch. It's all inside of this assembly. You can see kind of deep in there, there's the rod to it. There's a second cylinder right here. I'm actually rubbing my fingernail on it. So the cylinder count so far is up to 8. We still have 3 more to go. Let's go over to the passenger side. There's a similar setup over there and 1 extra cylinder. The final 3 cylinders are over here. Let me show you those. Here's our large cylinder again, the main lifting cylinder, which goes deep inside the body. Here's that other cylinder. I'm actually scratching my nail on it. It actually connects to this little arm. And then there's the 11th one. You can see these lines go to the cylinder right here. It operates a latch to lock into place the actual cover that closes over this entire convertible top assembly when you have the top down. And some of you are wondering, say, are you hurting this thing by manually operating it, doing it? No, it doesn't hurt anything. The reason why is because once all these cylinders are out, the whole system's going to be out of whack. When we go to put them all back in again, we're going to have to reinitialize and start from scratch and relearn the entire system. So it really doesn't matter. And no, it harms absolutely nothing. In fact, let me show you a few little latch releases that are purposely there so you can, from the factory, as they would say, manually operate your top. It's supposed to be done that way, and I'll show you why. We're back in the trunk again. There are 2 releases that take an 11mm wrench inside of here. Let me show you those. You can see I'm wiggling my wrench here. I'm connected to this little arm. When I lift it up, you can hear it releasing. It releases the latch there. And also on the passenger side, and right here I'm wiggling, you can see the other arm. It actually connects on, same situation as the other side. I can wiggle this latch. So those 2 are to manually release this part to allow you to do this. See these little latches right here? They're locked in, and you can't pull this up and out until you get in there with the wrench, just like I just did, and manually release them. There's another release over here for this latch to actually get this cover open. You slide an 11mm wrench down. There's a little tiny cam actuator right there. And watch this little plate right here as I actuate it. See that, guys? You can manually disengage it or engage it there. So if it's fully down, you would do the one I just did now that allows you to lift this top, this piece here. Once you get that open, you have to go in the trunk and go to those little arms like I just showed you to get this open. Now to get this released up here, let me show you that. So if the top is locked into place right now, right here on the windshield header, you say, oh, how do I get that one loose? There's little plastic plugs behind your sun visors right here. They come out. They don't fall, they have a little catch, and inside of there is an Allen wrench. You can stick an Allen in there and manually disengage these cylinders here. So they knew at the factory, at some point the system's going to fail. and you're in a weird position, it's raining, or you need the top to go this way or that way, because you at least need to get home. That's why they have all those manual releases, so you can safely manually operate your top. So no, it does not hurt the system to manually operate it, because they designed it for you to manually operate it on purpose. So someday if you're using your SL500 and you want to put the top down and it just freezes and it's like something's wrong, or it's leaking. You're like, well, I want to at least get the top down so I can cruise in this thing and I can get this fixed later. I don't have the money right now or the time right now. Can I at least get the top down? All those release latches that I just showed you, a way to release them. You can get this thing down. So from here, after you have all the latches released, all you have to do is manually lift it and let it go into its little hidey hole here. Just like that. Then you can close this one. Make sure it latches on the other side as well. But other than that, you can now drive the thing. If it rains, you're going to get rained on. But if you want to just drive it in warm, nice weather, just like that, you could drive it that way and just keep it that way. But if you want the system to work, you're going to have to get it in and get it fixed. There are cylinders that operate this rollover bar, and the company I use, actually there's two different companies I use, and both of them have said they don't touch that for liability reasons. And they also both say they never fail. There's no reason to rebuild those. Those don't give any issue. What does give issue is all the other cylinders. You've got tons of labor to pull all those panels off, get all those cylinders out. Then you have to send them off to a company and have all 11 rebuilt. I will never just do one or two for a customer, because those two now are good. It's like the next weakest link. The next one over here somewhere will now start leaking. Then you get an angry phone call, I thought we had this fixed. After going through that a couple of times, I said no more. We're going to do all 11, or we're not even going to start the job. That way both people are happy, the mechanic and also the owner of the car. That way you can operate your top and be happy and not even worry about it. To get all that done, and the cylinders, and the fluid, and whatever, sometimes micro switches are bad or other things, it usually adds more labor. You have to diagnose that, reset the system, easily $4,000 to $5,000. I actually talked to Cameron, who owns DC Motor Works in Atlanta. All they do is Mercedes and some exotics, and he's a Mercedes guru. And I asked him, is that right, $4,000 to $5,000? He said, yeah, I've done a lot of these, and it's usually $4,000 to $5,000. So that's typically the going rate. Now once we get all these cylinders out and onto a table, I know you guys like to see carnage. When Grimes has this all apart, we'll do an update video to show you all the cylinders lined out, what they look like, how you take them apart and get ready for send-off or rebuild. You can't just send them with the latches attached to them. They ask that you actually remove the cylinders from the latch assemblies. You keep the latch. All they want is the cylinder. So you have to do that yourself. And we'll show you some of the other things, and the new third brake light and how it's all fixed again and happy. Definitely be checking in the future for a video update on this one. If you're curious what kind of tools we use to work on this one or any other car in the shop, check our Amazon affiliates link in the description below. We get a small cut. If you purchase anything, we really appreciate it. Check out Mrs. Wizard's Ways as well. She's got some new videos uploaded there, really cool content. And make sure to hit the subscribe button here, because you can see we got cars lined up, which means videos for you guys. Thanks for watching.